So MaXXXine is finally out in theaters, and with this being the third film in the trilogy, I thought it was about time that we rank every film in the Ty West X trilogy from worst to best, starting with third place and leading to first place. But first, before I go ahead and do that, make sure you let me know down in the comment section down below your personal ranking of these three films in order from worst to best. And then after hearing my personal ranking, we'll see how close we were on our list by the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get into the ranking. Let's go. Coming in third place, I have the 2022 film X, which is actually the first film in this trilogy. It's what starts us out. It's what begins everything. And I know this film is number one out of the list to a lot of you personally, and I can see why. It's a fantastic film. This movie takes us all the way back to 1979 with a group of young filmmakers that set out to make an adult film in rural Texas. But when their reclusive elderly hosts catch them in the act, the cast finds themselves fighting for their lives. As a horror movie, this is unique. We see an elderly couple being the main antagonist, being the killers inside of this film. Of course, Pearl, played by Goth, she's playing two roles inside of this film. How genius is that? She's playing the young actress Maxine and the older killer Pearl. So as you can imagine, Goth is on another level acting wise inside of this film. And we also get guest stars from Kid Cudi, who is actually a producer on all three of these films inside of this trilogy. We also get Jenna Ortega inside of this film. She's only inside of this movie. She is fantastic. She's gone on to do some important things in her own career after this film. And we also get some brutal killing sequences. We get a creepy scene with Maxine hiding under the bed of the elderly couple. That was a disturbing moment. And we also get a great ending with a slight setup for the next films to come in the trilogy. So overall, this is a great film. I love that this is our introduction film into this trilogy, but for me personally, I think the next two films are even better and reach higher levels. So we're going to drop this first film X at the number 3 spot, and I would give this film an 8 out of 10. It's a very solid horror movie. Moving on to number 2 on my list, a film that was highly anticipated for me personally. I was so hyped, so excited to see this film, and that is MaXXXine. Now, MaXXXine, of course, is still in theaters at the time this video has been released. It's the third film in our X trilogy. It sums up Pearl and X perfectly, with this film being more of a direct sequel to X and the events that happened inside of that film carrying over directly into this movie. Now, in MaXXXine, we move over to 1980s Hollywood with adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minx finally getting her big break, but as a mysterious killer stalks in the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. Now, we see the events of X leaving a lasting effect on Maxine Minx. It's turned her into this savage character inside of this film where she doesn't take shit from anyone and she is willing to do anything in her power to achieve her goal of being a big Hollywood movie star, which is exactly what I want to see out of this character. We get our fair share of kills and gore inside of this film, though it's a lot more toned down from X and from Pearl. We're getting to see more of Hollywood, more of the Hollywood Hills and the Sign, more of the movie sets, and I love all of those things inside of this film. This movie is a love letter to the 80s and to Hollywood at that time and the horror films that released at that time, and the fact that Ty West found an interesting way to conclude this story for our character Maxine Minx, I found it enjoyable, which is why it goes in my number 2 spot on this list. And if I had to rate it, I would go ahead and give this film an 8.5 out of 10. Moving on to my number 1 spot, I'm sure you already know what it is just due to the process of elimination. I have Pearl as my number 1 film in this entire trilogy, which is actually a prequel. So technically, while this is the second film in the trilogy, it's actually the first storyline wise, where we get a closer look at the serial killer that we got to see inside of the X film, that being Pearl. We get a look at her backstory, at her childhood, at who she was as a person growing up, her wanting to be this big movie star, and us seeing that compare and contrast with Maxine Minx from X and what was really the driving factor for Pearl to seek out and hunt her inside of that film. Now, this film takes us back to 1918. We see the farm life of Pearl. We see her psychopathic tendencies coming out on this farm as she murders farm animals, and we see her living inside this fictional imaginary world inside of her mind and disobeying her mother, yearning for this glamorous lifestyle and to be seen on the big screen, and just watching her have this slow descent into madness as she tries to achieve this big dream of hers. It's absolutely fantastic. It's everything I wanted out of a film inside of this X trilogy. It's the most disturbing film in the entire trilogy. Watching Pearl kill and murder people and have this mental break, go on a killing spree of the people that she loves inside of this film, chop up bodies by the end of this movie. I mean, you see some real sick, demented, demonic stuff inside of this film. This is a real thriller, a real horror film. This is the best performance in Mia Goth's entire career. Easily, this solidified her as my favorite actress in Hollywood over all her competition, and this is truly a work of art. From beginning to end, Pearl has a special place in my heart, and it always will. I absolutely love this film, so it comes in at my #1 spot, and I would give this film the 10 out of 10, the masterclass rating. Absolutely, this film is a masterpiece, and with that being said, that is every film in the X trilogy ranked from worst to best, starting off with the #3 spot being X at an 8 out of 10, the #2 spot being Maxine with an 8.5 out of 10, and the #1 spot being Pearl with the 10 out of 10. I'm curious to know your thoughts on my list down in the comment section down below. Do you understand my logic and reasoning for why I placed each film where I placed them? Let me know your personal list down in the comment section down below so we can see how it compares and contrasts not only to my list but to other people's lists down in the comment section down below. Now, overall, every film in this trilogy is fantastic, which made it difficult to even say worst to best. It's more like great to masterclass, but I'm so glad that Ty West delivered on this trilogy. I can't wait to see what more he does in Hollywood, or if we'll get more films added into this franchise, this X franchise, especially considering he said in interviews that he's not exactly done with this world, and we'll just see how Maxine plays out in theaters for the final decision on whether or not we're going to see these characters return in future films. And if you don't already know, I did do a movie review for each and every individual film on this list for X, Pearl, and Maxine. There's movie reviews up on the channel. Go check those out so you can get a more detailed review on how I personally felt about each and every film inside of this trilogy. But overall, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I had a great time making it. I'm looking forward to doing more of these rankings in the future, so let me know down below any other franchise you would like to see, and of course, your personal ranking of the X trilogy. And if you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film and TV reactions and reviews. So if you're interested in any of this movie-based content, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.